All righty, folks. Well, good afternoon to you all and happy Friday. We made it to the end of another work week, or almost. We're just a few hours away from closing time. Got a lot of fun stuff to talk about between now and then, but it's good to see all of you joining us again for these Kansas Association of Counties and the Recovery Office joint efforts to help with these CARES Act funding initiatives. So with that, I'm Bruce Cladney, this is my third Zoom within the past couple of hours, so I am sorry. But I'm Bruce Cladney, the Executive Director for the Kansas Association of Counties, and it's been good to have been working with all of you for these past several months as we get all of this going. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. Please make sure that your computers are muted when you come on, or if you're on. I don't see anybody on, but I try to monitor. But if you happen to log off and come back on, please make sure that your line is muted so that we don't hear you. Also, it's been great to watch the listserv, the chat going back and forth. A lot of great questions. And I know that we appreciate all of the help that each one of you is giving yourselves. Hopefully you saw the email that I sent out earlier in the week asking. There was 3 things on there, and I'm going to throw them out now, and then I know Doug's going to talk about them as well, and then we'll probably finish up with just a real quick reminder about them. But please, as you well know, these Zoom meetings are for you. We want to make sure that we are giving you whatever it is that you need to make sure that you are being successful in this initiative. I know a lot of you have been working extremely hard, and you feel like you're under the gun, and so any sort of help that you get is definitely welcomed and appreciated, and we are certainly happy to help you. So just let me know, either on the chat today, send me an email, or call me, whatever, and just say this is what we need moving forward, because we kind of have come to a transition, if you will, where the plans are already done and submitted, and now we're waiting for feedback so that you guys can begin to implement those initiatives. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know if there's something that we can be doing with these Zooms to make them effective and beneficial to you all. And then also, don't forget that there is a survey out there, SurveyMonkey. Kim Qualls in our office put it together, and they sent it out through the Recovery Office. Please don't hesitate to respond to that. They need information, wanting to know the makeup of your Recovery Office task force, and then also who is monitoring the funds or who's keeping track of the funds. Is it a county employee as part of their regular job duties, or is it somebody else, a county employee doing it with extra pay, or is it an outside organization that you've contracted with? So don't forget that we do record all these meetings, and these are all posted to the website. So if you miss something, or you forget to listen for the answer to a question like we had last session, just go ahead and watch the recording, and then you can get that answer, and then also share that with your friends and colleagues. And with that, I don't have anything else. So I see Doug is on the line, and I see Vijay are on the line. So with that, gentlemen, please take it away. Oh, you're muted, Doug. We do not hear you yet. Nope, we cannot hear you. Uh-oh, your microphone is not on. Nope, we don't hear a single thing. Yeah, nothing coming through, Doug. So apparently you have speakers, you hear me, but we just don't have a microphone for you. So yeah, so while Doug is trying to get on, the question here is if you want to be included on the listserv, and I apologize for not mentioning this a second ago, if you want to be included on the listserv, simply send to me your email address, your name, and the county that you're working in. And my email address is my last name on the screen, CHLADNY, at kansascounties.org. And so what we'll do is we take your name and we put your email onto the email address, and then you will start receiving those. And so if you are one of those individuals that has sent to either myself or somebody else in our office your name and email address, and you're not getting emails, then we don't have your name in the system properly. Let us know, because I know emails are going back and forth constantly, even on weekends. So yeah, so just send to me your name, your email address, and the county that you're working in, and that way we will get you added to the list. I think we're up to over 90 people now that are on that list. So,
Bruce, are you able to hear me now?
oh my gosh, we can hear you now loud and clear, Doug. You sound great.
All right, so I held my fingers differently and it seemed to work. So
perfect. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bruce, you're right. Welcome everybody. We have reached a transition period. I think that's a really great way to describe it. A lot of work has been done turning the plans in, and we're certainly thankful for all the work that the county's put in that regard. And so that's one transition piece. And then we're also transitioning from the work you've been doing with Vijay to working with me. He is still on the call because you know, day 10, I'm still learning stuff, and he's gonna help out with chat and some of the stuff that I'm not quite up to speed with yet. But we're transitioning from him to me. So again, good afternoon. It looks like we've got some rain in south central Kansas, but the rest of the state looks pretty nice. So we've got about 15 minutes worth of slides. So we'll try to get you out of here so you can get out and enjoy the afternoon. And with that, I'm going to try to share my screen, Bruce.
I apologize. I don't think I set it up to share. Let me do that just a second here, Doug. My apologies. Okay, try it now.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, everybody seeing that?
Yes, perfect.
Very good. Let me get up here and start my slideshow. See how the technology is going to work here. All right. Okay, so again, welcome to the county briefing webinar for August 21st, 2020. Really quickly, I'll run through the agenda. We're going to go through a couple brief updates for the Recovery Office of Recovery, excuse me. We'll be doing just a brief discussion about county best practices. We have some federal guidance reminders. There's nothing new that has been issued, but we did include a slide that has some good reminders, we think. And then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about next steps. And then, as always, we'll transition into your questions, whatever you want to pose via chat. So as the secretary likes to do, Secretary Lorenz, when she starts any presentation, she likes to remind us all of the number of days we have left. And as of today, we have 131 days left until December 31st. So we all know that we're in a compressed time frame here, and we're all working hard to try to make sure that we meet all of those deadlines as appropriate. In terms of the Office of Recovery updates, everyone knows all this, so this is just sort of a repeat, but we do have a single FAQ document that's posted on the website with all the questions we've gotten so far. We have given over 400 email, voicemail, and guidance interpretation responses, and we're continuing to do that, and we'll continue to do that throughout the duration of this. And you can always send your questions to recovery@kas.gov, and that's the email inbox. As you know, we're expecting some additional guidance on the ability to hold funds beyond 12/30 for a federal audit, and then we have posted some federal audit guidelines on the covid.kas.gov website. This slide just gives you some additional resources. You've seen them, you most likely have them, but it's always a good refresher and always good to just have another reference point to get these additional resources.
Hey, Doug, let me jump in here for a second. Are you using a dual screen or a single screen for your monitor?
Single, why?
Okay, well, because all we see right now is just the title slide. So if you haven't done a slideshow, or if you've got two screens going or something, because we can see all your slides to the left and then just the title slide in the middle. So maybe you need to do
Bruce, I'm sorry. Let me
start a slideshow or something here.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Which is what I thought I had done. Sorry for the hiccup here, everybody. We'll
That's
try
okay.
this.
Hey, it's only day 10. You still got a long way to go, so no worries.
Again. All right, I'm going to try to share my screen here again.
Oh, your screen is shared. Your screen is shared. You just don't have the slideshow up as a presentation. It's just as if you could edit the slideshow. But you do have your screen shared. We can see it. It's not a problem.
All right, let's try that.
Okay. There we go.
You still getting the?
Yep. Nope. Now it's a presentation. Looks good. Yep, it's working.
Good.
Yes. So now you can advance. See if you can advance using the space bar or the lower left-hand side. Sometimes there will be controllers that'll pop up. There you go.
All right.
There
Sorry
you go.
about that.
Nope, you're in
I had it
business.
working. Okay. So we'll pick back up on this slide. Here is some additional resources for you. Just a slide that you've likely seen before, and you have these links, but that way you have them again. So some of the big news this week was the Department of Commerce. As you know, the Spark Task Force awarded $130 million for economic development and connectivity grants. To date, there have been, I think the last number I heard was 5,000 applications. And so what we are asking folks to do is that if you have questions about this process or have an interest in this process, then please use the email that we have here, that I have here on this slide, backtobusiness@ks.gov. And I know they're working really hard to get all those questions, those emails, those voicemails answered for you. So that's just another really good resource for you. Bruce, you mentioned off the top that we did, thanks to some assistance from Kim in your office, we did send out a survey for everyone, and really appreciate the response we've gotten from people so far. It's been great. But as you noted, we are asking a couple of questions, and part of this came up as a result of a question that was raised at the joint task force meeting earlier this week, and that had to do with the process that had been used to make recommendations for fund allocation. And so, as you know, we were specifically asking if you formed a steering committee, and if you did, who was on that, what was the membership, what did that look like? And then if there wasn't a committee, if you didn't have that kind of process, then who helped to allocate those funds? And then Bruce, also, as you noted, additionally, we ask who is managing the funds in your county, who's taking care of tracking those things. Is it someone as part of their normal duties? Did you bring a consultant on board? Just we're curious and interested in the process that you used to handle that. And I just wanted to take a second. I know you're doing this on the listserv, and I just want to continue to encourage you as a group to do this, and that's to share best practices with your colleagues. We know that one of the nice things about working in local government is that there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of good ideas out there, so don't be afraid to steal those from your colleagues, to borrow them, and to use them as appropriate for your situation. And just make sure you're having conversations with each other and with us about what's working well, what's not working well, what have you tried that didn't work, what are you thinking about trying? Those kinds of conversations are going to give us all better outcomes, and they're very much worth having. Federal guidance reminders. This is information that you have seen. As you know, there was no new guidance issued since we've last spoken, but just some helpful reminders for you. We're still waiting for more information on what temporary versus permanent facilities and what kind of guidance we're going to get there and what that will mean for you and your plans. As you know, the Senate did adjourn last week, and we don't anticipate any additional stimulus action until after Labor Day. That could change. There's always talk about that. That could change. So we never know what's going to happen there. But and then we're waiting for some additional information on litigation defense cost, setting aside funds for closeout costs like potential audits, tax anticipation notes, and then construction projects and other capital investments. And the big one really that we're waiting for additional guidance on is payroll costs. I think we've talked about this on these webinars before. We think that the feds may tighten up eligible payroll expenses, and so we're continuing to recommend that you take a more conservative approach to payroll. But I will remind people that there are clearly eligible expenses related to payroll, including providing paid sick and paid family and medical leave to public employees to enable compliance. And so we do know that there's likely additional guidance coming, but we do have some guidance that you can rely on as well. So don't forget about that. Okay, so in terms of next steps, and this is really just kind of the meat of the presentation this week, we have received all of the direct aid plans and reimbursement reports. So thank you for that. And so our primary focus right now is evaluating those submissions. I know a commitment has been made to the counties that we will provide feedback and some type of authorization to proceed by September 15th. We certainly would like to have that sooner, but for sure by September 15th, over or under promise and over deliver, certainly, but for sure by September 15th. We talked about the survey on county processes, so if you can get that information returned as quickly as possible, that would be wonderful so that we can get that compiled and sent out to folks. And then just a couple of meeting reminder updates. We have the Spark Working Committee on August 24th at 11 a.m. and the Spark Joint Committee meeting at 10 a.m. on the 26th. And then our next webinar is scheduled for August 28th, so next Friday at 10 a.m. And Bruce, maybe let you jump in here at some point. I don't remember if that's the last scheduled webinar, if we have any scheduled beyond that or not, but that to your point at the beginning of this, that's something worth discussion. You know, we want to make sure these are worthwhile for the counties, worthwhile for us, and that you're getting what you need out of them. So that's probably a conversation that we'll have with the KAC staff in terms of what will work moving forward.
And yes, Doug, to answer your question, yeah, that is the last one that we have tentatively scheduled right now officially. So we'll keep all of you informed and updated as we plan them some more. But like I said, I'd love your feedback. Doug and I would both appreciate your feedback, so we're providing you with what you need.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so some other just general information for you in terms of next steps. We are in the final stages of getting a contract finalized with the consultants, and they're going to come on board and assist our staff here with county plan reviews. We're excited about that. I think we're going to be able to get some nice results out of that, and hopefully that will allow us to move things ahead so that we can get you answers and get those funds deployed and working for the folks in your counties. We do plan to deploy a regional technical assistance in an effort to be more responsive to questions and to better support all the work that everyone is doing. And at this point, we're going to be suspending the guidance interpretation process. And we're going to try to focus on regionally dedicated and more individualized assistance. To be determined exactly the way that's going to look, but we'll be able to, I think, roll out something here in the very near future for that. This is exciting news. We're happy about this, and I think it's going to make the process work better for everyone involved. So I mentioned a couple times regarding an authorization to proceed. Right now, as noted, we are reviewing plans to identify potential compliance issues. We think this review is beneficial for both the county and the state, so for both of us, in areas that could be problematic for you and therefore for the state for compliance issues. We're working on, for each of the plans that was submitted, we're working on a response, and that response will, at this point, the response will do one of three things. It will authorize the county to move forward with implementing the plan and paying the reimbursements, or there will be a request for additional information. So not a lot, I would say, but some of what we've reviewed so far, there's going to be some additional questions. We think that we can likely get to compliance, but we need to make sure we have the right background information. And so we will be requesting additional information or some sort of, probably the most likely scenario is some combination of both of the above. And that is, you'll have authorization to move forward with some parts and then a request for additional information on others. And again, we're busy working on those so that we can get those out the door and get everybody moving. So with that authority and authorization to proceed, that, and this has been talked about before, but I think it's a good place to reemphasize these things. This authority does assume a level of county accountability. As you know, under the resolution that all of the counties adopted, there was an agreement to cooperate with any audits or inquiries by the Department of Treasury and to pay any debt incurred to the Department of Treasury due to ineligible expenditures of appropriated CRF funds. So these reviews are important because we want to make sure that we all remain in compliance. And we need to proceed in compliance with the terms of the CARES Act. It's worth emphasizing that authorization to proceed doesn't mean that counties will be held harmless from any audit findings if county expenditures aren't compliant. And as has been talked about really over and over ad nauseum, a county should appropriately document and account for the federal funding that they have been provided to survive any potential audit. And again, please make sure you're working with your attorneys, accountants, consultants, whoever the professionals that are advising you to make sure you're taking appropriate steps to reduce potential liability. This really can't be overstated. We are strongly recommending that counties establish an MOA with subrecipients. So funds that you are planning to give out, we're strongly recommending that you establish some type of MOA. And in that MOA, the subrecipient should agree that the use of funds is consistent with the statute and have not otherwise been reimbursed for that expenditure. So again, as has been talked about, we don't want people being double reimbursed, and we want to make sure that all of the funding is consistent with the statutes and with the guidance that's been provided. There is a template on our website that many of you have already used, and we are rolling out another template for counties to use in that vein. So that will give you an option of different ones to use. And again, it really can't be overstated to work with the appropriate professionals to make whatever MOA you do work for the type of expenditure being made. The template that we're going to roll out will have some, it will be adaptable for whatever situation you're in, and you just want to make sure that you are adapting it as appropriate to whatever your particular scenario happens to be. And this, it again goes without saying, but the MOA allows the county to protect itself from non-compliant expenditures. And the goal is compliant expenditures and to get the money working for our communities in an appropriate way. Okay, so I ran ran through most of the slides fairly quickly, just have this one left, and I want to end on a high note here with everyone, and that is to thank you for your submissions. Thank you for the well done work on your plans. Thanks for your continued participation. Thanks for our strong partnerships, and thanks for working to make Kansas better. It's been a long journey, and I know most of you have been involved in this longer than I've been, and glad that we've reached a transition point. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think everybody can be pleased with the work we've done so far, and look forward to continuing to move things ahead so that we can continue to make Kansas better. So that concludes the slideshow today. At this point, I will unshare my screen and we will go to work on seeing what kind of questions there are. Okay, Jay, do you want to dive in on chat?
Sure.
Or you want me to?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So why don't I moderate here, and if you want to, if I can answer any of them, I can do that as well. So the first question is from Nelson. So during the dual spark steering executive committee meeting, they said the recovery office has already gone through 70 or more of the county plans. Does that mean we could get answers back very soon?
So Nelson, thanks. As I indicated in the presentation, we have gone through a number of plans. We've committed to having everything out the door by September 15th, but we're very hopeful that it can be sooner than that. We're working hard to make sure we get things out to you.
The next question from Alan is, who did the survey go to at the counties? Bruce, that might be a question for you, or Doug, did you mention a specific survey?
Yeah, so the survey, Alan, the survey went out to our designated points of contact with the counties. So whoever you have given us to have on file as your primary contact, that's who the survey went to.
Okay, the next two questions are related to connectivity grants and using CRF. So the connectivity grant program requires a local match. Eric and Jim had made a comment or asked a question, can CRF be used, or the county funds, can they be used as a local match for the connectivity grants, and has a determination been made on that?
Do you know the answer to that, Vijay?
So as I don't think that I have been involved in those conversations. If they mentioned the answer on the webinar, Jim, then I think that that's the latest update that's available, but we can check with our folks at Department of Commerce and get you a solidified answer on that. But I don't think we're aware of any additional conversations beyond what was presented on the webinar for the connectivity webinar this morning. Pam's question is, what will the required September 10th report consist of? I don't know what specifically what report you're referring to, Pam. You might be referring to the next iteration of reporting of what you've spent money on. If you're referring to that, we're still working on an updated spreadsheet for additional expenditures. The determination that we make on your plan, that will come from us, and it'll basically just review if any ineligible expenditures there are, what we need additional information on to say that this is an eligible expenditure, and what additional questions that we have. And like Doug mentioned, we plan to have some regional technical assistance. And what we mean by that is split the state up into regions, and for every number of counties, maybe 10 to 15 counties. We have one person dedicated to answering your questions about our feedback and working with you all to get those plans turned around as quickly as possible. And so instead of everybody asking us questions on the webinar, we'll get you some more localized support as it relates to your direct aid plans. Anything, Doug, is that accurate?
No, that's, yeah, I should have gone into better detail about that, but yeah, that's right on.
So Leslie's question is related. It says, please address when you're going to issue a new reporting spreadsheet covering August expenditures, especially the juxtaposition with the fact that we may not have heard back from the state until 9/15 for what we've already submitted. Doug, you can jump in here. We're still working on getting that spreadsheet done with our folks, but we'll try to get that to you as soon as possible. And again, we're trying to get those plans out earlier than that deadline. And so you'll have a little bit more breathing room to get both of those things done. But our first thing that we're going to get out to you, hopefully, is getting you that spreadsheet. But Doug, is there anything else?
Yes, no, that's accurate.
Next question. I answered JD's question about the December 30th timeframe. That timeframe is set by the federal government, JD. So the governor has asked for some flexibility on that. But again, we're continuing to advocate for those changes, and we're hoping that the next round of federal stimulus, if it does happen soon, includes that. What about the reimbursement report due on 8/10/20? I don't know what you're referring to. If you want to clarify for us in the chat, that might be helpful. Heather's question was around having time to reallocate funds. Yes, you will. We'll have some technical assistance to help you determine, hey, this is not eligible, but here's some additional expenses that that we have that are eligible, and you can use them for those. And so you'll have some technical assistance to work through our responses on the plans. Patty's question is, what documentation will be required of subrecipients? So as of now, they will have to report their expenditures the same way that you reported your expenditures through the reimbursement reporting form. And so the same sorts of fields that are in that form are going to be the same sorts of fields that they need to be illustrating. And so they need to be giving you, and we're not going to be specific asking for every single receipt that they have. We're going to ask that you guys keep those at the county level, but we're going to ask that you report, and they report all of their individual expenditures for that month based on the bulk money that you've provided them through a transfer or for additional reimbursements that they're requesting, anything like that.
And Vijay, I would jump in here and say that the forms or whatever documentation is required isn't just, we're not trying to make this just a bureaucratic exercise. The idea is to make sure that we all have the right documentation so that in the event there is some sort of audit or some sort of, someone wants to look into how the funds were spent, that we have it covered and that we can show compliance with the statutes, and that protects us all.
So the next question is, what guidance are we waiting on for payroll? What if we only asked for reimbursement of non-budgeted overtime hours for staff dedicated to COVID and future expense of non-budgeted payroll? So, I mean, I'm not going to speculate as to exactly what's going to happen at the federal level as it relates to payroll. We fully expect that if it's for specifically overtime hours beyond what's previously budgeted or administrative leave beyond what's previously budgeted, that's pretty low risk. What might be tightened up is just already budgeted payroll expenses being credited towards CRF or our whole agencies being credited towards CRF. Those are the types of things that we expect may be changed, but we expect that doing something above and beyond what's budgeted or above and beyond administrative leave or overtime hours, those sorts of things, or staff that's specifically reassigned to COVID, those are relatively low risk. Doug, there's a question here from Eric.
Yeah, Eric, we will provide those results of the survey, and we'll make sure that people have access to those, because I think it'll be good for everyone to see what processes were used, and it'll give a little bit of insights into what's worked well and what hasn't.
Next question is, what do you expect the time frame will be in number of business days available to us to receive state authorization or non-authorization before we must submit additional documentation or submissions before monies are clawed back? Will we have a few weeks or a few days? Doug, do you want to start, and I can add if you want me to?
Leslie, I would perhaps just reiterate that we have pledged that we would get answers out the door to you by September 15th. Again, we're working hard to make sure it happens before then. We're finalizing the consultant contract so they can help us and really expedite that process. And I don't want to overpromise, but I'm confident we'll be able to get things out to you more quickly than September 15th.
And I'll just add, I mean, we understand that it's going to take some time to reallocate, and that's a part of that is why we're providing that technical assistance, but also that it's going to take some calendar days to reallocate those funds. And so you will have time and some help to help work through those plans. And
this is probably a good time to reiterate, as I said in the presentation, likely some of what is sent back to you will be authorization to proceed on some things, but then we will likely have additional requests for information on some of the projects. Again, just to make sure that we're all tracking like we're supposed to.
Question from Trish here. Can we request to have one item we submit in the direct aid plan reviewed and expedited? They want to purchase fiber, and that has taken a long lead time.
Trish, if you get me the details of your county, we could certainly look at it, but we're trying to work through all the counties and get those all out at one time, but can certainly take a look at it.
Bill's question is, will we get them as stated earlier in webinars as they've been received or all at once? Bill, this was my issue. I was being a little bit confusing here. We're reviewing them as they've been received. They'll need to do an initial review of all of the plans to understand kind of and make some decisions about how we're looking at things more broadly, or how we're looking at certain categories of funding, or how we're looking at eligibility. And so they will review them in the order that they've been received. But in terms of getting all of the plans out to you all, Doug, I believe it's going to be all at once as soon as possible, right?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay. And I apologize, Bill. That was, if I was confusing in the last call, I apologize. So a question from Butch here about they've received confirmation on one reimbursement submission, but not on the direct aid plan. We'll check into that and we'll get back to you. Doug, I don't know if there's anything else on that one.
No, except I would say I've had a number of those inquiries over this last week, and we have sent confirmations to the best of our knowledge to every county. And so everyone should have received a confirmation email. They've gone to your point of contact that you designated. So you might check with that person, but I'm also certainly willing, Butch or Pam, if you want to give me the individual details of your county, I'll certainly verify that for you.
The next question here is, and I think I think we'll address this at a larger, because it relates to multiple different questions I'm seeing here, is there's a deadline on 9/15 to have a second reconciliation of expenses. And it's difficult, obviously, to do that if you haven't been approved for your direct aid plan and your reimbursement reporting form. And so I know that this process is evolving, so give us a second here. I appreciate you guys bringing that up, and we'll get an answer back to you on that, and how that next reimbursement, the next reporting deadline will work, given that we're still working on getting you your plans back, and you'll need that report will be empty unless you get a response back from us on your report. So give us some time, and we'll work on that and get you a more substantive answer. But I know that's a consistent question across everybody. And Mark, I know that's your question as well. Give us a second. We'll talk about that, and we'll get you an answer back. Doug, I don't know if you have anything right now, but
No, I think that's right on. Again, I'll just keep saying this. We're working diligently to get those plans reviewed and out to you so that we can get you feedback and so that you can get moving.
Yeah, and so fully understand the issues there with timing. So we'll get you an answer on what that means for you moving forward. So how closely, Doug, I guess this might be a good question to answer here. How closely will the future reimbursement reports have to tie to the direct aid plan by program, line by line? How large of a variance in the plan would create a need for amendment? When will the amendment process be addressed on how to do so? I can answer a couple of these, and then Doug, if you want to take it. We're still working through what the amendment process would look like. I know we have made the commitment to you all that there will be a chance if there are different needs that pop up to help amend those plans. And I think the technical advice, the technical support will really help with that. So you'll have a point of contact that you can talk to about how you're going to work through different amendments and things like that. So the current, how we envision the current spreadsheet to work is that you will do it by program and by transfer. And so if you told us, hey, you're going to be expending on these sorts of things, then we'll see those sorts of reimbursements for that program or for that transfer or for your county. I know some of you have done those line by line, and some of you have done more general transfers to a school for expenses, but we've asked to be as specific as possible, and we'd like to see as much as possible what you've submitted to be what is being expended. I mean, if there's a difference in how much PPE you end up buying, then obviously we're not going to need a plan amendment specifically if it's not a huge change or anything like that. But we'll work through that and give you some additional information if as we move forward here. Doug, anything else on that?
No, except that I think you're right on. The only thing I would add is that probably over the last week, I've gotten 10 or so emails from folks saying, oh, I forgot to add this thing. I forgot to add my signature. I forgot to add X. And certainly those are minor amendments. Those aren't necessarily material to the plan. So just email me, contact me, and we'll get those added to your plan. We don't want to make this overly burdensome. But certainly if there's a major change, we would need to work through that process.
Next question here. Let's see. So another question on reallocating funds. Again, same as the previous answer. And I think Doug just answered that. So the next question, could you remind me, are non-for-profit eligible for payroll reimbursement under the small business grant program or only for for-profit businesses? So you can provide a nonprofit a grant for business interruption, and that they can use that for payroll. The easiest and cleanest way to do it is just to provide them a general grant, and then they can use it for whatever needs they want to use it for. And so if they want to use it for payroll, they can use it for payroll.
And Andrea, we received your question right before this webinar started. Hopefully you have an email about that from us already. But if you don't, be looking for that because it should be sent out momentarily. Thanks.
Did I understand the discussion earlier in the week that round 3 appears that it will be spent and used on state level for state activities? Currently, yes, that round 3 is intended to be for maybe outside proposals or, state level programs or what have you. We aren't expecting to provide another necessarily influx of county allocations in round 3. Although I know that there's going to be some, as we see changes in cases and things like that, priorities change. They're still working through what round 3 means, but the timeline for round 3 is mid to end of September. So that's our current timeline for opening up round 3 and giving you some more details. So I would wait until the end of September to know more details on how we're going to be working through round 3. That doesn't mean that we're not working on it. So continue to listen to the SPARK committees. There's one next Wednesday, a joint meeting between the steering and executive committee. So listen to that one. They'll continue to talk about round 3, but in terms of solid details about what we're doing, I would say late September. Doug, another point from Tim here about Scott County
Yeah,
only
I see
receiving
that.
confirmation on one of them.
Tim will check, but again, I would ask you to check with your primary contact if that's not you, but we'll check our records.
JD, I think your question is specifically about supply chain deliveries or supply chain disruptions. And so there is an allowance for a supply chain disruption. So if you ordered it and you believe that you're going to get it before December 30th and there's a supply chain disruption and that pushes it beyond December 30th, then it's okay and you can pay, and as long as you illustrate that the costs were incurred before December 30th. If you're ordering and you know that it's not going to come beyond or it's not going to come before December 30th, there's no way it will come back before December 30th. It's more difficult for us to illustrate the need for that cost. So that's a nuanced understanding of the guidance. But what I would say is, if you believe that you can get it before December 30th, but because of delays or what have you, it pushes back, then there is an allowance for a supply chain disruption. And so you can order it and then pay later or pay in advance, even if the items aren't delivered. Another one on confirmation for Alan.
Looks like we have a couple of those coming up here. We'll
look through these in the yep. So a question from Andrea: on the next reporting period, can you also gather information if we do not have expenses yet because we do not have our plans approved? Will we be penalized? You will not be penalized for reimbursement reporting because of delays on our end and getting all of this stuff figured out. Again, I understand it's an issue both in terms of timing, but also in terms of knowing what the new federal guidance is and how that applies to your reporting. So after this call, we'll have a conversation about what that means, and we'll try to get you some more information. But we will try to get you a updated spreadsheet, but also some more information on how the next reporting period will work, considering that we are still reviewing your plans. Is there a list of other county administrators? Bruce, that may be a question for you there. Phil, your question about, right before we go to Bruce here, your question about spreadsheets, totally understand that you need to be complying with new federal guidance and communicating that to your subrecipients. We appreciate your patience on that, but that's my number one thing now as I'm reading these as the immediate need. Bruce,
I would also say to Phil, we have another email question from you that you sent a couple days ago, and we're researching that and have reached out to some other state agencies for some guidance, and we'll get you a response on that email question just as soon as we can. Thanks for your patience.
Bruce, a question about, is there a list of other county administrators?
Yeah, and Nancy, and I see that, and Vijay, I'm not sure I understand. I'm wondering if that means those are the folks that are working on these plans, and we're not maintaining that list. So if that's what you're asking, we don't have a list of who are the people who's on that 105 contact list that you guys have, that you're sending out all the primary contacts to. And if that's not what you're asking, Nancy, let me know.
If it is what you're asking about our list, I don't know if we're sharing that list of primary contacts. Doug, that I would ask you.
No, I don't think we are. Okay. I guess if Nancy has a specific question, we can maybe try to address that, but that's not something I think might be best solved via the listserv or something.
Right.
So next question here is, are there any types of expenditures that in your review so far that you can tell us you're thinking of deeming ineligible that would apply to lots of counties, if we could be addressing that, if we think it applies to us? Doug, I know you've been more plugged in here.
That's Leslie, that's a great question. And I'd say at this point, the answer is no. There's really just some variances with every county And a lot of them on their face appear like we can get to a yes, but it's just going to be asking you for more information when we get those reports out.
Okay. Nelson, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, some of our emails are going to the junk or spam folders, so please check there for confirmations. Heather, I appreciate that point, and I know that you all are waiting to make significant numbers of significant number of investments that will require some taxing of the supply chain as it relates to PPE and all of those other things. We're working to get these out to you as quickly as possible. And so the reason we can't just make a blanket change is because as we review more and more of these plans, we're finding more and more questions, and we have to be able to make some larger determinations with our legal folks about certain categories of expenses, what we need more information on, things like that. And so it's difficult for us to get everything out within a couple of days after the plans were submitted on the earlier this week. And so we're working as quickly as possible to get these done. As you can understand, it's a big undertaking, but it's one that we asked you all to do, and you all have done your end of the bargain, and we're working as quickly as possible to review these, and we've got a full team of folks doing that. So we'll get those as quickly as possible. Referring to hazard pay, do they get paid just to do paperwork? Do they get it for the time they are around COVID patient for the full 8 hours? So I don't know, Doug, if you have any other answer on that other than are they substantially dedicated to COVID-19, and is it above and beyond what have you, what's kind of already been budgeted? I don't know if there's anything else that you'd say on that.
That's the answer. And as I look at the next question, the 1099s, John, we have encouraged, that appears to be the appropriate form to use, but we're encouraging you to check with your legal advisor, tax consultant, county attorney, whoever you need to talk to make sure you have that determination correct.
On small business grants, it would appear a 1099-G would be required to send any recipient receiving amounts greater than $600. Does this sound correct?
Oh, that's the one I was answering, Vijay.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. I don't see any other questions. There's one that I got as it relates to supply chain delays. So our current understanding is that I don't know if there's a specific kind of number of days that you can move, that you can have a supply chain delay beyond December 30th. I'm going to have to check on that. But our current understanding is if you order something and you know that it's going to come after December 30th, and that's an issue. But if you order something, you believe it's going to get here by December 30th, but you don't get it until later, that there is some flexibility on that. The other portion of there is some flexibility is when you pay. So if you buy something or you issue a contract, but you pay using CRF funds up to 90 days after December 30th, then that's okay. It's just that the goods and services all have to be incurred before December 30th. And so I want to just clear that up. But Bruce, are there any other questions that we're missing?
Yeah, there's the one at the bottom. Nancy did follow up asking, you mentioned working with other counties. I am not sure who to contact to do that with. And I understand now what you're saying, Nancy. And the answer I would say is if you're not already on the listserv, to send to me your name and email address, and then we'll get you on the listserv, and that way you'll have contact with everybody. You'll have contact with over 90 of your peers across the state that are working on this issue, and that way you can send an email out and get responses and so on and so forth. So, and other than that, guys, I don't know if you've got the ability to share with her or others, directly who's working on the Spark initiative in their neighboring counties, or if that's just kind of how they need to go about it, is just get onto the listserv and then send the message out looking for help.
I think the listserv is probably the most appropriate way to do that, Bruce. And as a follow-up, I am going to check for grant Scott Rooks in Franklin County. If I missed your county, please let me know. Send me an email at doug.gerber@ks.gov, and I will make sure to check for you.
Oh, there's one more question here. Doug, do you see it from John?
Okay. Well, okay, John's question is, will there be any guidance on suggested documentation to obtain for verification on things like small business grants, medical care, or uninsured, et cetera? So I think there has been some guidance given out on that, John, and we would just continue to recommend that you track things as you think are appropriate to make sure that you can ensure, if there happens to be an audit, that you can ensure that the funds you spent were compliant with the statutes.
And I mean, okay, perfect. The only other thing that I would add is, I mean, I would take the state programs as kind of a model. And so I know that Commerce has put together a small business program, and so that could be a good model for how folks at the local level are establishing their programs.
Bruce, I think it's back to you.
Very good, folks. Well, we've reached the end of the hour, and so it's been great working with you today. And like Doug had said, this was our last official scheduled Zoom. So until we come up with Plan B and get some feedback from you all so that we know what we're doing
Bruce,
moving forward.
We have one next week, right?
We certainly can.
I have it on my calendar. I thought
okay. You do have it. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. Yep, I'm 1 week ahead. We got it on the 28th. I apologize. So, yeah, we will be back. My apologies. I told you it's been a long day.
That's right.
So my apologies to you all. So, yeah, we will be back here on a week from today on Friday, 28th, and that will be our last scheduled one until we have other plans. So we'll let you know at that time. So until then, folks, thanks again for everything, and be on the lookout. We'll get the links out for the Zoom as we get it posted, and then also don't forget to answer the questions on the SurveyMonkey. And as always, thanks again for everything, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week. So thank you and goodbye.